Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome into episode 41 of Kayfabe Council, the show where we review and critique news topics and segments in the world of professional wrestling. My name is Pretty Tony, and alongside me, as always, is the good brother, TF Joker. Joker, what's the crack, brother? What's going on, man?
Oh, it's just another day where we got to record and talk about the world events of the wrestling. Honestly, this week has been a blur, kind of meh, kind of just fair to middling. Nothing has really gone on in my life, and nothing has really gone on in the world of wrestling, in my opinion. So I mean, I don't know. This week has been a bit of a write off for me.
That's fair. Sometimes no news is good news. When nothing sort of happens, we always kind of fear for those big eventful things that are usually stressful. But yeah, for the most part, like we were talking about earlier this week, that both AEW is building up towards the Revolution, which we are talking about today, and WWE is kind of in this slightly elongated build towards WrestleMania. So not a huge amount of things happening, but we're gonna get there.
Yeah, it's just kind of wish it was already April, and then that kind of just gets rid of March. So just wish there was something to do in March, something maybe to talk about, something that maybe wasn't rehash of old material and stuff we did months ago. But AEW's there.
Hey man, so if you're gonna run it back, we gotta put a fresh coat of paint on it so that folks are interested and it has a new spin. If this indeed is gonna talk about at least a couple rematches on the card upcoming.
I mean, a fresh coat of paint would really kind of just be, the same matches but different people. Like if it was stipulation matches. But this is legitimately the same matches with the same people. There's no stipulations. They're still happening, and we're still not really caring about the outcomes of these matches. Like, why are they happening? You care. Like, what are you doing? Did you get a little bit confused? This isn't Ring of Honor, dude. This is AEW. This is your big boy shoot.
Well, certainly some of these things are garnering interest to varying degrees, and like we mentioned, we'll get into our thoughts and opinions on how the build is going and just our overall impressions of the match. If folks want to see it, if they're invested, if they're bought in, if we can say. But yeah, that's what we'll take a look for to today. All right, as a reminder, you can find us in video form at youtube.com/kayfabe council and in audio form wherever you get your podcasts from. On this week's episode, we look at the build to AEW Revolution, Revolution, Revolution. Shout out to the band Tantric. If you know, you know. But yes, like we said, we're going to look at the build to AEW Revolution. We're going to be looking at just the matches themselves, give a little bit of insight on how we got there, thoughts, impressions on the matches. So, all right. So, with that, coming up first, like we said, the build to AEW Revolution. So, we have one pre show match announced here, announced on this past week's episode of AEW Rampage. Mark Briscoe is backstage doing an interview and mentions that the most recent Casino Battle Royale to fill the last spot in the tag team match. Mark was looking to kind of join in and he was getting excited and tried to run out to the ring and find his brother Jay, but Mark mentions that Jay's upstairs with the big man. So what he did end up finding was smart Mark Sterling and his a bunch of hooligans, Tony Nese, Josh Woods, and Arya Daivari. So in lieu of that, Mark ended up finding some backup in some other brothers, the Lucha brothers themselves, Penta and Ray, and essentially they challenged the varsity athletes and Arya Daivari. So this sets up the match for the pre-show. Joker. Mark Briscoe is always an interesting promo, and just for some of the folks that have gotten to see more recently, just sort of a fun person to kind of just watch the controlled chaos that he is. But with this being a rather short build, just announced on Rampage, Mark Briscoe and the Lucha Brothers in a six-man tag versus Arya Daivari and Josh Woods and Tony Nese. Is this something that you're looking forward to? Is this something that kind of just piqued your interest?
Honestly, 5 of the 6 competitors in this match, I really like. I like Mark Briscoe. Like, I think, like you said, he's been really fun to witness on AEW TV the last few weeks. Having gotten a cursory glance into what he's done before, even with his brother Jay, like it always felt like Jay was the mouthpiece for the two. Although um, Mark always had words to say, and he always made me smile, regardless of what he said. So it was lovely to hear him actually say, to the effect of the words, like his brothers upstairs, essentially, and that he still has friends, whatever have you. I love the Lucha Bros. We've seen them in so many good matches. I'm a big fan of Josh Woods. After seeing him at the first TK sponsored Ring of Honor pay per view under the Ring of Honor Pure rules, I thought he was fantastic there. And Tony Nese is just Tony Nese. He's a big slab of a human being who looks absolutely amazing. The odd one out here for me is Ari Davari. Kind of like, okay, buddy, what are you going to do in this match? Because I feel like you're the one that's about to get completely crushed. No build. It's going to be a fun match. I genuinely think that this is one of those matches where you go, Mark Briscoe and the Lucha Bros going to take this easily, and it's just going to be fun. There's going to be some big hits. There's going to be some fun spots. Yeah, there's nothing too special about this.
Yeah, even though this one is on the pre-show, it gives me a little bit of those vibes from WCW, how on their pay-per-views they would start off with a high intensity hot match, sometimes a cruiserweight match. And you have the likes of the Lucha Bros, you got Mark in there, it's just kind of fun to watch. Like you mentioned, you got Tony Nese and Josh Woods, and Arya Daivari is no one to slouch on. So regardless, this is going to be a crazy kind of just fun, high intensity match, at least to start off the pre-show leading into the main show. So, yeah, I'm in agreement. It's just going to be fun to watch, even though it doesn't have a ton of build. But yeah, I might tend to agree. The Lucha Brothers and Mark Briscoe probably going to take this one for sure. All right, let us know what you thought about this particular matchup upcoming. All right, so as we get into the main card itself, the first match we're going to talk about is Christian Cage versus Jungle Boy Jack Perry in what is being billed as a final burial match. How did we get here? Well, a little bit of the insight. After Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus lost the AEW Tag Team Championships at Road Rager on June 15th to the Young Bucks, Cage attacked Jungle Boy after the match, hitting him with a concerto. The two would then face off in a match at All Out in September. And at the event, Jungle Boy would be defeated in 20 seconds after Luchasaurus attacked him and aligned himself with Cage. Furthermore, after defeating Luchasaurus at Full Gear in November in a steel cage match, the feud went cold as Christian was away healing his injury. Then we see Jungle Boy attacked Christian 2 weeks ago on Dynamite. Christian gave Jack a low blow and left him busted open. And finally, on this past week, while Christian was cutting a promo in the ring challenging Jack, Jungle Boy was shown in a vignette saying he wants to bury Christian Cage, setting up this match. So real quick, as we've seen, this dates back to June of last year. Ultimately, we were trying to get the match in September, but Christian was hurt shortly there before, so we are finally getting around to having what appears to be the blow-off match. So, Joker, I'll throw it over to you. A little bit of the build in mind. Is this something that you are looking forward to?
No, not at all. This is like 8, 9 months ago now for the start of this, and I get there's been an injury in there, but final burial match. You, you mean a buried alive match, right? Like
Oh,
a buried
copyright,
alive
brother.
match.
Copyright, copyright.
Yeah. WWE called. They said you can't copy their homework that well. Like you're both getting a failing grade here. Final burial match. What? just have a street fight. You do those all the time. Just have a no holds barred. I don't care what you have, but final burial match? What? It clearly means, and if I don't get a buried alive match, then I'm a complain because these are setting it up to be that way. At least the final part I hope is true, because this is just too long. And I get it. Like Christian Cage had an injury. Like, there's nothing you can do about that. That's why we had the Luchasaurus squash on Jungle Boy to give Christian Cage the match, like give him the win. Like I get it, but it should have been squashed ages ago. Like why did we need to resuscitate? This is necromancy right here, PT. We revived a dead thing that didn't need to be revived. We really did not need this. This honestly should have been the match on the pre-show. And even then, it probably could have been a match on last night's Rampage, and I still wouldn't have cared because this is just whatever. I honestly don't even care who wins this because we'll probably see another match out of this.
In all fairness, like you said, they're supposed to have a match in September at All Out, but Christian was hurt shortly before, and it cooled off. Christian was away. They had Jungle Boy do other stuff, feud with Luchasaurus, a couple matches with Hook. But yeah, I'm hoping that this is essentially the blow off, so these two can kind of go their separate ways and then just kind of do what they need to do. Jungle Boy can continue to grow and evolve. Christian can kind of do something else and be a sort of a dastardly heel. But yeah, I think it's one of those where essentially Christian was just saying, I want a no holds barred kind of, no DQ match essentially. And then we cut to Jungle Taker with a shovel trying to be like, hey, I want to bury you. So uh patent pended, by the way.
I mean, didn't Taker have a terrible ratio to winning in that match? Like that's even though it's his signature match, he had a terrible ratio for wins in that match. Like, did he ever win one?
He wasn't 100% winning, that's for sure, I can tell you. So,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he lost more than he won on his signature match. So that's tough luck for Jungle Boy. Looks like he's gonna freaking lose.
but I can kind of see this at least kind of being the sort of blow off the final match. I'm assuming it's just going to be a no DQ type of thing. I don't even know. They're calling it a final burial. I don't know if they're going to have some gimmickry with, a plot and they're going to do some offsite shooting and vignette thing where they kind of go to like a graveyard gimmick, but I at least see this just being a no holds barred match.
Yeah, like don't try and do a cinematic match. Like the last time that was done, I think that it was the street fight for Sting and Darby versus Hobbs and Ricky. I think
Ricky
might have been a
and
different.
was Ricky
No,
and
not Hobbs. Ricky and
Brian
Cage. Brian
Cage, yeah.
Cage. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, like, let that one be the crowning glory because that was actually good. From the signs of it, this is just going to be a rip off of Undertaker's last match against AJ Styles. Like,
Begs to be seen what we're gonna get, but it would make sense if Jungle Boy came out with the victory, get the young kid a little rub ski, and let these guys kind of part ways.
I suppose.
All right, coming up to the next match here, Chris Jericho versus Ricky Starks, with the caveat that the Jericho Appreciation Society is banned from ringside. So, how did we get here? On the January 4th episode of Dynamite, Ricky Starks defeats Chris Jericho. Jericho, upset over the loss to Starks, defeats Starks and Action Andretti in a tag team match alongside teaming with Sammy Guevara on the January 25th episode of Dynamite. Furthermore, wanting another match with Chris, Ricky was put in a gauntlet match featuring members of the JAS on February 8th, defeating Matt Menard, Angelo Parker, but ultimately losing to Daniel Garcia. And finally, 2 weeks ago, Ricky Starks declares an open challenge for Revolution. Starks saying he's done with Jericho, but Chris fires back that he decides when Ricky is done. Jericho ends up signing the match with Ricky, much to Ricky's chagrin, setting up this match. So, with the previous match and a little bit of chicanery, what are your thoughts on this Jericho and Ricky Starks match, Joker?
Yeah, that's my thoughts, really. Honestly, it's one of those things, like, I like Chris Jericho, okay? I think Chris Jericho is one of these guys that is completely selfless and willing to do whatever it is to put the new crop over. And I love the fact that he lost to Action Andretti and they made a story out of that. Like, that is some cool stuff. And then he lost to Ricky Starks and stuff, and that is honestly his role. He has exceeded anyone's expectations of what he was supposed to do within this industry. I think Chris Jericho was fantastic. We've already lauded how much we love Ricky Starks as well. And their most recent confrontation, where Ricky was just sort of trying to talk Chris into signing on the dotted line of the match, and we had what's his name come out to the ring, and I got Pretty Peter Avalon started marching down to the ring in front of Jericho, and Jericho gave him the Judas effect and everything, and then went down and fell for the trap that Ricky expertly laid out. It was fantastic. I really loved that little segment. That Ricky was like, I wouldn't, I'm not going to do that. You're too smart for me to try and trap you or anything. But I did just get what I want, so it's fine. Um, I like Ricky Starks. I like Chris Jericho. I'm not really a fan of the JAS anymore. They're surplus to requirements and it's boring. It's not that they're bad guys, it's that they're kind of there now. So I'm happy that they're gone. And that is the reason I'm interested in this match. I'm moderately interested in this match. I wouldn't say like I'm hyped to witness it, but I definitely think that this is something that's going to be good.
Yeah, fair enough. Ricky using that +10 to charisma ended up ultimately having Chris Jericho sneakily manipulated, some would say, into getting this matchup. But yeah, I'm in agreement that Chris is just doing a phenomenal job working with a lot of younger talent and not having a big ego about it. And he showed that he can put over some young talent, ergo Action Andretti and Ricky Starks, and just either eating a pin or suffering a loss to them, but still being able to be held in high praise and just kind of go and just do his thing. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the matchup plays with Ricky getting the win over Chris and then losing in the tag match. But much like the Jungle Boy Christian Cage match, I feel like Ricky should get the rub ski, and because it'll do more for Ricky than it will for Chris. And I feel like with the JS being banned from ringside, I'll probably do like a post match beatdown or anything, or try to sneak in, but they'll get the old referee, "You're out of here," or something like that. So, but yeah, I feel like Ricky's gonna take this one.
I don't disagree. I think it would definitely benefit Ricky a lot more than it would Chris. Although it is 50-50 sort of shot here, Chris Jericho could still win. Like, I'm not, even though, yeah, it wouldn't benefit him in any regard. And even though I said he kind of puts people over, you kind of expect him to put people over, and then he doesn't. And then he just takes the win for himself. So I would actually find that hilarious if Chris Jericho wins and then realizes I don't need the JAS and disbands them, only to lose to Ricky Starks again, down the line because they need that rubber match. If Jericho wins, but this in terms of the singles stuff. So I wouldn't put it past them, but I think the Ricky win would mean more.
In agreeance, and I have the little bit of vibes of much like the Jungle Boy Christian Cage, like this they should kind of part ways after, because like we felt like we tell the story. So yeah, but it'll be interesting. Ricky's a beast, and they'll just both be having a little bit of that sports entertainment and showing off. So it'll probably be a fun match.
It is definitely the one thing I would criticize Chris Jericho sort of storylines for in AEW. They go on slightly longer than you expect them to. Nope, there's still the final act. Oh, wait, no, another act after that.
In a 3-act story, we're up to act 5. There you go. So,
Pretty much, yeah, yeah,
all
yeah.
right. All right, well, let us know down below what your thoughts are on the match. All right, coming up to the next one here. The Elite, Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, versus the House of Black, Malakai Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews for the Trios World Championship. So, how did we get here? After being suspended and stripped of the Trios Championship for Brawl Out, the backstage incident at All Out, the Elite made their return at Full Gear in November, a losing effort to a Death Triangle for the Trios Championship. Subsequently, in a best of 7 series between the Elite and Death Triangle, which spanned 2 months and culminated in a 7th and deciding match on January 11, 2023 edition of Dynamite, in a ladder match, the Elite would win the match and the series 4-3, and ultimately their second Trios Championship. For the last couple weeks, the House of Blacks have been cutting promos seemingly aimed at the Elite. And then ultimately, on this past week episode of Dynamite, the House of Black jumped the Elite from behind, claiming the physical titles, and then challenging them officially later in the night. So that is how we got here. A little bit of a different kind of build. It's been a little bit more in a promo or sort of not face to face. But Joker, thoughts on the match?
I really, really liked that best of 7. I thought that was some good stuff, and we commented on that a lot about people who thought the elite weren't going to win and all this here. It's like we kind of knew from the first game, as they called it, because they essentially called them games. We knew from the first game who was going to win. It was just how we got there and how interesting it was, and they did a very good job on keeping that entertaining. Um, but they entertained us through matches there. This has been very different, and I don't know if I like it because the House of Black contains 3 really good athletes, 2 of which I was a big fan of before AEW, and Mr. Brody King, who is just the big beast. Mr. Brody King, kind of the enforcer, a man who should not move like that for his size, is actually terrifying, even more so than the other 2. It's just kind of like, wow, how have we fumbled the ball on these 3 so hard? So while I'm not really hot on the build to this, the 6 guys in this match are so good that I cannot wait to see Buddy Matthews versus Kenny Omega. Like, that is just one of the pair ups that I can see in this match. Like, Brody King versus the Jacksons, like he has to take on both Jacksons. We'll have Malakai Black taking on Kenny Omega at some point. We'll have Buddy Matthews taking on Kenny Omega. Like there's so many little combinations, and then big spots. Obviously, BT trigger spots. Who's taking that? We're going to have who's going to take the one winged angel spot, etc., etc., etc. There's so many good little things in this that the more I think about it, the more I'm interested in the match, despite the build, because latest interaction was cut the lights, we're here. Cut the lights, they're on the ground. Bring them back up, and we're stood with the titles. I don't like this sort of electric boogeyman kind of thing they've got going on. Like the lights, I get it. House of Black, cool. The lights go down and you get to come out to play. Fun. Let's stop that soon, please, for the crying out loud. Like, I don't know. Getting a bit tiresome for me.
Fair enough. It's one of those where they're working with the electric company, brother, and they got them in their pocket so they can do some of their shenanigans. So you mentioned it that it's a different type of build. There's been almost kind of like no face to face besides the House of Black just this past week, kind of physically jumping them, taking the titles, and then making the challenge. It's just been through sort of promos or standoffs or really kind of that. So it's been a non-confrontational kind of different way to build, and you're right. But regardless of the build itself, I'm in agreement that these 6 guys, I'm just looking forward to this match. This is gonna be a train wreck, and it's gonna be fantastic. Kenny Omega Jr., aka Buddy Matthews, man, they're just I just all I wanna see all I wanna see is them just, giving jumping, running knees and quote unquote V triggers back and forth, V trigger, boom, V trigger. Uh, Buddy Matthews or Buddy Murphy, sometimes known as in WWE previously, that there was a bit of styling some of his moveset off of Kenny. So just to kind of see that unofficial mirror match in a sense is just going to be ridiculous. But yeah, the little pair offs, I think this just match is going to be insane and fun to watch.
Oh, 100%. We're going to see backhand springs. We're going to see, you know, V triggers, like the double V trigger. They're going to essentially scissor each other for crying out loud at some point. That the acclaimed is going to go, hey, that's our gimmick, brother. Calm down. It's just one of those like if you're a fan of Buddy Murphy and Malakai Black from back in the Fed, you remember them going at it all the time. Like whenever they got called up to the main roster, or rather when Black got called up to the main roster, you're just like you sat and watched them just do it every week, and somehow it was better than the last week. Not like these Usos versus the Street Profits matches where they just kind of got more steel. But these two guys on the same team against the Elite, plus you add in Brody King, like a guy who legitimately was the only good point about the Brody King versus Darby Allen massacre. It just sort of writes itself. There's going to be high spots. And yes, if you have been a long time viewer, you know I hate spot fests, but Brody King is in there. So is Buddy Murphy. These two guys, while they actually can do big spots, still slap. They still do the big spots. They still wrestle. They still hurt people. Technically, so does Matt Jackson. Nick less so, but still, these guys know how to do it, and they know how to tell the story. Let's just hope that story is good.
I'm in agreement. It's going to be a definitely a hard hitting matchup, potential for a match of the night contender, honestly, for the early predictions. But honestly, it would make sense for the Elite to win, but I'm not gonna lie, I'd be okay if they change it up and have the House of Black take the titles.
House of Black wins. Kenny's contract expires. He goes to WWE. There you go. Job done.
All right, you heard it here first. Let us know what you think about the Trios Championship match.
Yeah, not that prediction at the end.
All right, the next matchup here we're going to look at is the AEW Women's World Championship. Champion Jamie Hayter taking on Saraya and Ruby Soho. How we got here, Hayter has been the AEW Women's Champion since defeating Toni Storm at Full Gear in November. On January 11, 2023 on Dynamite, Saraya teamed up with Toni Storm in a losing effort to Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Jamie Hayter. Storm and Saraya subsequently tag together on February 3rd against the Renegade Twins, and this is where they ended up with a quick win, and after the match, they both spray painted the letter L on the Twins. Subsequently, throughout the following weeks, spray paint became a signature tactic as they branded everyone not in alliance with them as losers. Ruby Soho, seemingly being caught in the middle between the homegrown talent represented by Hayter and Baker, and the outsiders, championed by Saraya and Toni Storm, really caught in the middle, but only wants a shot at champion Jamie Hayter. That's all she did. She's not sort of picking a side in this quote unquote rivalry of such. And ultimately, 2 weeks later, Hayter challenges both women to a match at Revolution. So, interesting kind of build with this sort of rivalry of homegrown versus sort of outsiders, if you will. But honestly, I like the nature of Hayter just saying, you know what, like, I'm just going to challenge you both and let's do it at Revolution. So, Joker, what are your thoughts on the build and this matchup?
Sorry, I was just taking a sip of my Haterade. Because Jimmy Hater is just freaking amazing. Okay, Jimmy Hater is my women's champion, and she's the freaking best. Like, there's no way anyone can ever deny that so far Jimmy Hater has been the best women's champion in AEW, and it's through circumstances of other ladies in on the roster that she's kind of gotten there, not specifically just through her own. Because if we remember, she was a heel for so long, but now in the context of AEW, she is a babyface, and that seemingly just happened. And it's the same with Britt Baker, who we know as the big bad. Like, she was a terrorizing force in AEW with Jamie and Rebel or Reba. I forget which one it is all the time. But anyway, we have these three individuals who were seen as the heels, and now we have Saraya and Tony Storm. Now, I'm not a big Saraya fan. I mentioned before, whenever she re-debuted, that I really enjoyed the pop and the fact that she got flowers and stuff, and then everybody loved the fact that she came back. But I don't get it. Like, if somebody could explain to me what she's meant to be doing, that'd be great. Because currently, I don't get why she has just immediately went from right there. This is my house. It's homegrown versus the outsiders. Like, I was going to say the invaders, but essentially it is the invaders because the outsiders just doesn't sit well with me. So the spray paint as well. What? What? Mate, what are you playing at? Will you wise up with that stuff? Do you have any idea how caustic that is to skin? Do you have any idea how stupid it makes you look too? Spray painting on like you're Hogan back in the day trying to put NWO on somebody. Like, come on. It just looks stupid. And I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. But Ruby Soho being in here, love me some Ruby. Personally, I'm a bigger Willow Nightingale fan than a Ruby Soho fan. So I would prefer to see Willow here, but that's just me. I really like the fact that this is going to be a 2-on-1 for a while, and then we're going to get a Jamie Hayter versus Ruby Soho match for about 5 minutes, and then we'll have probably Jamie roll up Saraya because Jamie's not losing this match. If Jamie loses this match, she's not taking the pin for one, and she gets the title right back real quick because no, don't take the title off her. Also, may I add, this is the only women's match on this card. Why?
So a lot of things to unpack. I'll address sort of your last question there, this being the only women's match. With we mentioned because there's an hour dedicated to the main event, which we'll get into a little later. So I mean that whole segment will probably be like an hour 20 or so, roughly. So you're already kind of working with kind of less time if you want to keep it 4 hours or so. But I think it's one of those where I think we haven't seen Jade in like a week or maybe a week and a half or so. So I mean, could we have put just a random squash match on the card? Kind of wouldn't make sense. I'd feel like we just, you know, give me a solid challenger so we can have like give me a 10-minute Jade match or we could have put somebody else in. We don't necessarily have to have a Britt Baker, a match specifically, but we can have something else. But to be fair, Tony hasn't built really a program or sort of anything else besides this little uh, program with these ladies involved. So I get it, but I feel like we go back to conversation we've had. Tony can do better with the women's division.
I don't disagree, but there are 3 matches on this card that we've seen multiple times before, and 2 of them we've yet to talk about, and the other one is Christian Cage versus Jungle Boy. Scrap them. Give us new matches. Why isn't Willow on here? Why isn't Anna Jay on here? Why isn't Jade on here? I don't care if you put her in a squash match. Like, put her in a squash match. She deserves to be on a pay per view called Revolution. Like, as much as I don't like Jade for being John Cena of AEW right now, and that is a thing, once you get to a point of just winning all the time, you become boring to me. You cease to actually be a character. All you do is winning. She deserves to be on this card. Like, there are men on here that do not deserve to be on here. You're resuscitating or trying to keep alive programs that should not be here. So I appreciate that he has only had time, which sounds really crap, to have a really good match in Jamie Hayter, Saraya, Ruby Soho. But there are plenty of other women on here, on the company's books, that deserve to be in this thing. And that's all I really want to say about it. I know I kind of sidetracked us there, but I just feel like that there should have been a bit of a better representation.
I'm in agreement that Tony can absolutely do better and we can have more women's matches regardless of who's in a match. If you build it up and you make me want to see it, then it makes sense. That's all I'll say, regardless of who's in there. So, can we do better? 100%. That's a hole that we can kind of fill with better intentions and more work put into that. But in terms of this matchup, real quick, the nature of Hayter and by proxy Baker just becoming natural baby faces and just kind of because they're popular and stuff like that, it happened natural. So I think it's fantastic. Obviously, Hayter's getting on with her just popularity of having really good matches, and she doesn't get a ton of promo time, but the more recently she's shown that she can just be fun and engaging in the limited promo time that she has. So definitely gets over with the fans. And I likewise am a little confused on that match in January where Saray and Tony lost to Baker and Hayter, and they just kind of got, I guess, frustrated. And now they're just like, well, now we're gonna do this kind of beautiful people TNA type of thing where we're just gonna spray paint and be these kind of heels like that. Sort of interesting. It seemed kind of ham-fisted, but it's something to do. We'll see if it works kinda going down the road. I'm a little conflicted about really their resolution to kinda, "This is where we wanna go with it," or, "This is how we ended up." But regardless, Hayter, Saraya, Ruby Soho kinda being caught in the middle between this 2 things. I kinda like she's like, "No, I'm not gonna pick a side. I'm just do me. I just want the championship. I'm not getting involved with this bollocks." So, I appreciated that from there, but I agree with you that I feel like Hayter's gonna retain. Doesn't make sense to kinda take it off of her now. If by hook or by crook that she does lose the belt, like you mentioned, she's not gonna take the pin. So, but yeah, I feel like Hayter's gonna come away with the title here.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I do appreciate the Ruby Soho stuff. Like, it's just I found a third option, so
Yeah,
it'll be good. We've sort of went from a super wide a scope on the women's division to a narrow scope, and while it's not so great that we're not putting a lot of stuff on here, um, there is room to improve, still. So let's just hope it happens. And yeah, obviously, Jimmy Hitter to win.
agreed. We can always do better. We can always improve 100%. And we can do a lot more for our women's division everywhere. All right, coming up to the next matchup, we are going to talk about Jon Moxley versus Hangman Adam Page in a Texas Death Match.
We've definitely had that match before.
We actually have had, not particular a death match, but we've had this matchup before. How did we get here? Well, let me fill you in. Let me talk to you. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
All right. On October 18th episode of Dynamite, labeled the Title Tuesday, Page suffered a legitimate injury during a match with Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship after landing off of a lariat, causing a match stoppage. Moxley would go on to win by referee stoppage. Page made his return from injury on the November 30 episode of Dynamite, confronting Moxley before a brawl broke out between the two. After the men were separated by security, the fight continued backstage. Flash forward to January 11 on Dynamite, Page gets his win back by defeating Moxley, having Mox be staggered and disorientated after the match. On February 1st, Jon wins once again over Hangman Page via roll-up. So now we're up 2-1 for Jon Moxley. Fuming over the recent loss, Hangman wanted another fight with Moxley, but the Dark Order came to stand with Page, with Evil Uno subsequently challenging Moxley for a match. February 22nd on Dynamite, Moxley wins a bloody battle with Evil Uno. Post-match, a fight ensues with Hangman coming down and hitting Mox with a barbed wire wrapped fist, busting Mox open, and we see after the match a bloodied Moxley challenges Hangman to a Texas death match. So with all things considered, this will be the fourth singles matchup here between these men, with at the moment Jon up 2-1 on Hangman Page. With build-up, what are your thoughts on this matchup, Joker?
Well, one of my thoughts, one of my immediate thoughts is you were saying that Hangman came down to the ring and he punched Moxley with a barbed wire fist. The barbed wire is a bit redundant. If Hangman had just breathed on Moxley, like he would have gigged already. So just went, give it a wee breath, give it a wee blow, and all you would have seen was Mox go, bust a gasket here. It's a bit redundant. I To get there though, I really enjoyed the Evil Uno Moxley match. I really wish that was given a few extra minutes. Uno gave a hell of a lot in terms of what Jon did to him, and Jon gave a lot to Uno as well. It's not as if Uno was just completely crushed in that match, and I really enjoyed seeing that happen because after the passing of Mr. Brody Lee and the subsequent non-renewal of Stu Grayson's contract and the sort of unraveling of the Dark Order, it's one of those that you kind of look at as a little bit disappointing. These three guys are the only ones that are left. Anna Jay is gone. We've got the other guy that we don't talk about because he was angry to, or he was mean to -1. So he's off being weird somewhere else. But it's one of those things that Evil Uno has perennially been one of my favorite characters, and to see Moxley just beat up on him, and even Hangman just sort of disrespect him in the week before that, where Uno and the guys came down and they were like, you know, politely, shush, please, shush, give it a little shush, stop talking to me. I am going to talk right now to Mr. Moxley. Hangman, be quiet and stand there in your corner. Obviously, he said a little bit more harsh than I did, but and I feel like that sort of dynamic was the only reason I'm semi excited for the match because I want to see the Dark Order by the side of Hangman, like Moxley has the BCC. Yeah, I said that right, BCC. I had to question. Maybe I said the acronym wrong. Anyway, because other than that little aspect, I don't care about this. Like the first instance, the first match, Hangman got legitimately knocked out. And while I was really aghast at seeing the fact that it was a referee stoppage. Like, no way! Like, what is this? The random ending. And then you hear the story. I couldn't remember my son's name. Like, I was appalled that this had happened. Like, these guys were really safe. John is a very snug wrestler. We've heard it before. Um, and then they sort of went back and forth, and I was like, okay, well, that's it. That's there's no need for this anymore. They they're beating a dead horse. I don't need this. This is another place where a women's match could have been, because this could have been revitalized when Hangman wins the title again, or when Mox has his title reign for like the fourth time. Like, this is worthy of a title match, but I don't know why we have it now. Because whenever either of these men have a title next, I don't want to see that match. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be There's not going to be any expectation to it. It's not going to have good build because we've seen it all before. Like, what are they going to rehash? Oh, you knocked me out and then I won. Ha ha ha. Now it's a best of 7 instead of a best of 5. Like, I don't know. Other than the Evil Uno participation in this match, I haven't been very pleased with why this is still going on.
There's a degree of, because it's from October to now March, in the guts of 3 and change months, 4 months, that this is the 4th match. There's a little bit of the luster has come off of the bloom has come off the rose in a sense, because we've seen them constantly going at it there now. So with this being the 4th match, I can understand it being a little like, all right, well, I've seen this before 3 other times type of thing. Now it's a new twist to the Texas Death Match, so the no holds barred. We know it's going to be a fight, a hoss battle, bloody matchup, but I think it's one of those where in agreement, these guys need to split after this match. You gotta give them time. They gotta go their separate ways. Whatever the outcome is, you gotta change it up so that folks don't get stale on this. But yeah, I'm Jones to see this. It's gonna be bloody battle. It's gonna be fun, but they they need to take a break. No, please, with all due respect to both men, they're fantastic athletes, but just kind of the booking, just let them pair off after this match and do something else.
100% agree. Like, this is just, what's that, like the second match then that I've said, like, just kind of feels like it's here just to fill out numbers. Like, the time you're spending on these two matches could be allocated to the elite match, the Jericho match, the Jamie Hayter match, the one of the next two matches. Like, come on. There's better there's better economy here for being able to use our time, and I don't know if a fourth match is here. And for those of us who feel like we're being overly harsh, like, we didn't like an awful lot of the stuff that had happened before. Just because it happened before doesn't mean it was good. And even the WWE things, like, for a recent example, you can go and see Seth versus Cody. I am a Cody mark. I love Cody. Love Seth. Hated the fact that they were on every single pay-per-view after WrestleMania until Cody got hurt. Hated the fact that that went on for 3 months. That was boring. But this is, again, 6 months minus minus injury. Again, Christian Cage versus Jungle Boy, 9 months. Like, come on, buddy. We don't need necromancy. This is not a fantasy setting in terms of, there are necromancers trying to revive these zombies to do undying battle for us. Just let it die. We don't need this again.
Fair point. I like me some Mox. I like me some Hangman. I think it's just the build. Like again, the it's just the 4th match in a close amount of time, and I think it became a little diminishing returns is really what I'm going at. So that's my kind of thoughts on it. I don't have a problem with either of these men. It's just a little bit of the build type of thing. So
No, I would agree. 100%. It's just the build. Don't need it.
all right. So let us know your thoughts on this matchup as well. All right, the next one we're going to look at here is Samoa Joe taking on Wardlow for the TNT Championship. After forming a team in the latter portion of 2022, Samoa Joe turned on Wardlow. At Full Gear in November, Samoa Joe defeated Wardlow and Powerhouse Hobbs in a three-way match to win the TNT Championship from Wardlow himself. Flash forward to December 28th, on a Dynamite special New Year Smash, Joe retained his title against Wardlow, and post-match, Joe cuts off Wardlow's hair. February 1st, Wardlow returned and attacked Joe after he regained the TNT Championship from Darby Allin in a no-holds-barred match. And finally, on 2 weeks later, February 15, a rematch between Joe and Wardlow for the title, scheduled for Revolution. Here we have yet another rematch. Once again, if I'm not mistaken, the second singles match, but third matchup between these guys in a relatively short amount of time, in a couple months. But the element of Joe cutting off the hair of Wardlow being the additional caveat. Joker, what are you looking forward to in this match?
Wardlow's entrance? Maybe?
Okay. All right.
Like, I get, like you said, like, we've talked about rehashing old content. Like, this is rehashing old content yet again. Love Samoa Joe. Love Wardlow. These two guys, Wardlow was a dark time, let's say. It was an ill-conceived attempt to give Wardlow a bit of rub, I think, maybe, possibly. And then Samoa Joe just kind of he was just still Samoa Joe after that. Like, he didn't go up in any standings, he didn't go down in any standings, he didn't gain anything, he didn't benefit, he didn't, there's nothing there. Whereas Wardlow kind of slipped further and further into obscurity. If we go back even further than the beginning of this, if we remember all the way back to when Wardlow versus MJF was a thing, Wardlow put MJF, laid him flat out, had to get stretchered out. And then MJF came straight back in the next week and gave his impassioned promo about calling TK a mark and all this here. And then everything that was done after that detracted from Wardlow because Wardlow was seen to be beating up completely useless guys. Eventually went on to win the title, the TNT title, and had a very lackluster run. Like, I love Wardlow's sort of presentation. He is the Goldberg of the new era, except, he can actually go. So you look at this guy and go, that is a prime athlete. And TK goes, I'm going to do my best impression of Vincent Kennedy McMahon and squander this resource. Mwahahaha, evil billionaire noises. Because that's, in my opinion, what he's done. So now we're putting him up against Samoa Joe again? For what reason? To give Wardlow the title? Well, I mean, I hope so. But Hobbs has just won a battle royale to become the next TNT challenger.
The ladder match.
The ladder match. Yeah, yeah. So, like, why would we give it to Wardlow if we've just given that to Hobbs? Hobbs deserves a big push. He has put in a lot of graft recently. And I really like Hobbs. Granted, him standing at the top of that ladder was a little bit funny because it did not look comfortable. Not gonna lie, Hobbs, I felt the same. Watching you even on the third rung, I was like, no, nobody. Stay close to the ground. Maybe this is not your time. Maybe this is not your time. But in that case, like, Samoa Joe's gonna win and then lose to Hobbs because Wardlow has put in the work. But then what does that do for Wardlow? And then, oh wait, Wardlow wins, but then loses to loses to Hobbs. Well, what does that do for Wardlow? Absolutely nothing. What does that do for Hobbs? Kind of nothing. He beat a weakened Wardlow. But if Wardlow beats Hobbs, then a weakened Wardlow beat Hobbs. Like, there's no this sort of booking is just so bad right now. And I'm not looking forward to this match. Like, I'm not interested in it. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't care what the outcome is because it's a lose-lose situation.
I think it's a fair point. Much like yourself, love me some Samoa Joe. I like me a Wardlow. I think it's just the booking of it. How we got there and sort of this is yet another rematch. Nothing against these two guys. Love to see them work, but yeah, I think the caveat of Powerhouse Hobbs winning that Face of the Revolution ladder match, and then we know he's got a title shot coming up right after the pay-per-view. Well, Joe retains, so Wardlow loses some shine, but then faces off against Hobbs. Makes sense for maybe Hobbs to get the belt so we can get a little run ski. So we disappoint Wardlow, or maybe Wardlow wins, but then Hobbs loses, so then that maybe doesn't hurt him, or Hobbs wins. So it's a very kind of this is not the best situation for kind of these two fellas, but then Hobbs subsequently. So I'm I I'm gonna have fun watching the match, but I think it's more so the build of how we got there is a little bit lackluster in all fairness.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be fine for what it is, but I don't know. The outcome is whatever to me, honestly.
It's a tough spot for these guys knowing that we have a title defense coming up against Hobbs. So yeah, it's a tough spot.
And here's the worst outcome. Samoa Joe beats both of them. Like, uh, why? And that's a very real outcome that could happen.
Yeah, then Wardlow and Hobbs lose momentum. So
Exactly. Just let Joe lose and then try and put off the Hobbs match for as long as possible. Like, please.
like I said, it's gonna be a fun match to watch, but it's just a tough situation for the kind of booking we got ourselves into. All right, the next matchup here, we're going to look at the AEW Tag Team Championship match. Four-way for going to see the Guns, Austin and Colten, taking on the Acclaimed, Bowens and Caster, against Triple J, Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, and the team of pseudo best friends Orange Cassidy and Danhausen. How did we get here? Well, let me tell you. At the special Dynamite Championship Fight Night, February 8th, the Guns defeated the Acclaim to win the AEW Tag Team Championship. Following week, a three-way match for the title was scheduled for Revolution between the Guns and the winners of a Revolution Tag Team Battle Royal and a Casino Tag Team Royale. But the match was changed to a four-way after the Acclaimed invoked their rematch clause. February 22nd, Dynamite, Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett won the Revolution Tag Team Battle Royale and were added to the match. And this past week on Dynamite, March 1st, Orange Cassidy and Danhausen won the Tag Team Casino Battle Royale and were added to the match. So a little bit convoluted how we got there. Two Battle Royales, a little bit different style. Back-to-back weeks, we featured a lot of the same teams fighting for two chances at a shot at the Tag Team Championships, but Joker, this will be the first title defense for the Guns. What are you thinking?
we had we had a conversation last night on our pre-production meeting, and I said to you, what was it that I actually said to you, PT? You know what I'm going to say about the Guns. What did I say about the Guns being champions?
Christmas Jones, you were a detractor. You did not want to see them. You thought they was rubbish. So
I forgot they were the champions, right?
there you go. Okay, that you did actually say that. Yes, you did.
I forgot that they were even the champions. What? Why are these guys even on a pay-per-view? Like, they have not had a good run. And I don't mean run as in championship run. I mean just run in general in their careers. Like, the best stuff that I remember the Guns for is the pandemic era, where they would be at the side during the matches cheering and getting involved with all the other wrestlers that were there at the sides with their dad. That is honestly what I remember them most for, if not secondary to their short, brief run with the Acclaimed as the Ass Boys whenever Anthony Bowens was injured. So these guys fall flat for me. I don't care about them as champions. I've no idea why we're doing this. This feels like it's two heels versus two face match in terms of teams. The Orange Cassidy versus Danhausen, it's in there for a feel good factor, I suppose. The Acclaimed activating their rematch clause here feels like they're obviously going into it going, well, we're not going to win. And then Sonjay, Jay Lethal versus Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett with Sonjay and Satnam being in this match. A little bit bored of those guys too. Like the only team I like here is the Acclaim, but they're not going to win and they're not the champions. So I'm for that reason, Dragon's Den style, I'm out. Like I don't care.
Very controversial decision to have the Guns take the championship off the Acclaimed. Obviously, Acclaim being hot, as well as just with the crowd and over with the fans themselves. But interesting decision. Whether it was a real heat ski to just have the Guns just be bad guys and heels to take the titles off of a really popular team, or just a potential booking decision. Be that as it may, we can argue for hours over this, but this will be the first defense. A little bit you touched on the Guns have only been sort of backstage or in promos and have not, I don't even think they've had like a match per se, not even a tune-up or a squash, but they've just been featured in little segments, and you can be fair to forget that they are the champions going into this. Interesting with the automatic rematch clause. Sometimes that's a thing, sometimes it's not a thing. It's a booking crutch that a lot of folks use, and I think the caveat of having 2 battle royales back-to-back weeks to filter in 2 extra teams when you coulda just had a full-fledged rematch is a little bit of an interesting twist, but be that as it may, with all 4 of these teams in here, honestly, it in my brain, it makes sense if the Guns or Triple J, Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett just come away with the titles just to be eat and grin heels and just to make fans mad and just kind of get over heel with the crowd.
I understand the logic, okay? And here's devil's advocate Joker kind of coming in to kind of placate all those people going, way, the Guns, should have won. The Acclaimed, in my opinion, were cooling off. They were getting a wee bit stale as champions. There was very little in the way of actual tag team competition. What with the Lucha Bros and Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, sort of being in the trios division currently, right? And those were 2 of the top teams, plus FTR being on sabbatical slash not there. You had 3 of the top teams never there. Like, so who were you gonna pick them to fight against? The best sort of team to have them go against is the Guns. There's actual storyline reason for it, and they are really, really sleazy bad guys. So I get it. I 100% get it. But they won. I forgot they won. I legitimately forgot that they were the champions going into this match. That's not something that's good for your champions because it just feels to me that they haven't done anything to solidify them being the ish eating grin having heels that we know they are. I love heels. I am the heel guy. I love the heel characters. They do what people can't say or do. The Guns are just kids that are kind of claiming daddy issues and wah, my daddy found 2 new kids, so we're acting out. Wah. Like that is literally what I have here. in terms of the motivation. So I would prefer Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett to win if that's the route they want to go down, because at least that might be interesting at some point. But don't get me wrong, that's starting to get boring too. Fix your tag division.
Those are all fair points, with some onus being shown on the trios titles, with some of those teams like you mentioned being fighting for in that division, and a couple of those teams being away and not having a huge depth in terms of the tag division, because some of them are focusing on the trios now, obviously, so you're having the tag team division split in a sense. But yeah, I think it's one of those, and I love the Acclaim, but just they didn't have much to do after kind of the big win and that kind of thing. They were doing more in-ring segments. So love them, but it's just, I think with the focus on the trios as well as some of the teams not being there, it's just it got deflated a little bit. So but this will be, I like all these guys in here. It's going to be just another fun little chaotic match. But yeah, I feel like a heel team's going to come away. I'm in agreement.
Yeah.
All right, coming up to the final match on the card, the main event. MJF taking on Bryan Danielson in the 60-minute Iron Man match for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship.
The whole reason we're watching this pay-per-view, don't gonna lie about this one. This is the only match we're here for.
Here we go, baby. How did we get here? At Full Gear in November, MJF defeated Jon Moxley to win the AEW World Championship with the assistance from William Regal, leader of the Blackpool Combat Club, who betrayed Moxley. 2 weeks later, MJF double-crossed Regal and attacked his badly damaged neck with Regal's brass knuckles. This drew out and the ire of Bryan Danielson, another member of the BBC and one of Regal's proteges. MJF later stated that if Danielson wanted a title match against him at Revolution, he would have to win all of his singles matches in a 1-month period, which Danielson agreed to on the condition that the match at the pay-per-view be a 60-minute Iron Man match. Danielson subsequently went on to defeat Konosuke Takeshita, Bandito, Brian Cage, and Timothy Thatcher before beating Rush on the February 8th episode of Dynamite to make the World Championship match at Revolution official. 2 weeks ago, February 22nd, episode of Dynamite, MJF attacked Bryan personally, calling out his ungratefulness for his family and for putting wrestling first. This ended with a brawl, which had to be broken up by security and AEW officials, which MJF took too far when he targeted Danielson's kid. And finally, this past week episode of Dynamite, Danielson speaks directly to MJF, saying if he's not ready to give everything he has for 1 hour, then MJF will, quote, get his effing head kicked in. So, stemming back all the way from that Regal betrayal in November at Full Gear, leading up till now, this is the one a lot of folks are looking forward to. Joker, talk to me.
I just really want to see MJF get his effing head kicked in. Honestly, I love MJF. I think he's fantastic. A couple of weeks ago, I had criticisms for his promos. I can't deny it. Like I like what I like. I hate what I hate. I hate the whole rehashing this emotional turmoil BS. Um, but yeah, like I really like the fact that MJF is doing what he said he would do. He is making his opponents jump through hoops just to fight him. He is going to have a reign of terror, and that is what it is. Like, it's not a reign of pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. He's meant to be this guy that is supposed to be annoying the heck out of you. And this is what the heel guy is. I've never forgotten that this guy's the champion. He's out every week telling me he's the champion. He's out telling me that this guy has to, do a triple backflip just to get into the ring with him. Like, come on. And then, oh, well, Takeshita is getting in my way. I'm going to have a mini series with him because reasons. It's not because I'm not going to be fighting every week. He wasn't. But if you check up on MJF's Twitter and stuff, he is posting his progress pics in the gym, and the man is shredded. The man is good to go, and he is actually trying to get himself into physical condition for this match. And then there's Bryan Danielson. Like, we all know about Bryan Danielson, who recently has gone on record and said that Kofi Mania was his favorite moment in his career up to this point. Like, love this man in terms of making me feel things about his character. And like the character he plays in WWE compared to AEW, it's kind of the same thing. Like, it's just a guy who wants to kick someone's head in and make them submit. And I was never, admittedly, the biggest Bryan Danielson fan. I was never the guy that was like, I've never been a CM Punk fan. I've never been a Bryan Danielson fan. I've never been a John Cena fan. These guys that are hyper popular for no reason, I kind of don't get. I don't like those guys. Cody Rhodes, because Cody Rhodes is awesome. But that's a different thing. Um, so like, we've got these two guys that are diametrically opposed in terms of popularity. You got the Yes Movement versus MJF, and this is the only match that I want to watch on this card. Honestly, if the other matches weren't there, I don't think I'd care, because this is going to be an hour of really good contest between these guys and a good blow off. We will never see this match again. That's the thing about this.
This matchup, a lot of folks are looking forward to. Sure, obviously with MJF and Bryan Danielson being super popular athletes here. An Iron Man match is tough. A lot of folks are, depending on how they decide to structure the match, really what it comes down to is the last 5 minutes. That closing segment is basically what everyone is going to be anticipating for. Now, whether it's a little bit of a Brett and Sean where they kind of pace out and kind of be, a little bit more of the kind of, there was some rest holds, but type of thing. Obviously pacing. We have a little bit of a Brock and an angle where it's just like going, balls to the wall for the guts of an hour, where we see more decisions, things like that. I could see somewhere in between. These guys are hyper athletic. They have cardio. They can go. Obviously, of course, in any match, you're going to have some rest spots to kind of regroup and type of thing. But I feel like it's going to be somewhere in the middle between the Brett and Sean 96 and the sort of crazy Brock and Kurt Angle thing. We're going to see athleticism. We're going to see some decisions. Something tells me that MJF is going to get at least one DQ decision because he's just going to be super heel and be like, I can earn that back or whatever is the case. So yeah, it'll be fun. Hopefully the guts of the hour is structured well where it keeps us in tune and engaged. But yeah, that basically the last 7 to 5 minutes is going to be what folks are going to be super jonesed for.
You said something there like MJF is going to get himself DQ'd. 100% agree. He's going to get himself DQ'd with such a big spot that he's going to try and get 2 pins out of it. Like, I 100% gosh darn agree with that. Like, it's not outside the realms of possibility for MJF. And if he doesn't, I'll be hectically surprised. Like, I'll be like, oh, 5 minutes to go. Why hasn't he got himself DQ'd to get like a bunch of wins? So yeah, it's definitely something that's going to happen. We're gonna have a lot of fun with this match. I think we may even have a couple of minutes where they don't touch at the start. Maybe sort of calling to the Sammy Roman match, say, look, we can do it too. But that's more a crowd thing. If they can feed off the crowd to do that at the start, the longer that'll go. Um, but after the last time they were in the ring together, I doubt that'll happen. But it would have been a good thing to see, because the last time they were in the ring, after that promo you made me watch again because I skipped it, they were beating the tar out of each other. So it's something to look out for. but very interested to see MJF retain his title.
A lot of folks are thinking, yeah, MJF's gonna win, so definitely the match to look forward to at this pay-per-view, and yeah, it's gonna be an intense match, so brace yourselves and settle in and just gotta make sure you're pacing yourself when you're watching this one for sure and get jonesed for the finish. So that was the build up to AEW Revolution. Let us know down in the comment section below on YouTube or hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, and let us know what your thoughts were on the build to these matchup and which matchup that you are looking forward to the most. All right, coming up to quick hits here for some of the newer listeners and watchers. Quick hits are little segments that happen throughout the week that we really enjoyed that we may not have gotten an opportunity to talk about in a full fledged topic, but we wanted to share here, sort of pop the boys segment that we just had to share with you folks. So, my man Joker, you got a quick hit this week? Let me lay it on me, brother.
Let me talk to you. It's about our boy LA. No, I'm not really joking. Obviously, throughout this entire episode, I have said that I'm a big Cody fan. So this past week on Smackers, we did see a nice little opening to the show. I have my notes here in front of me because I had to make some notes that were hecka funny. Obviously, this I have to preface this by saying you need to go and watch this. This is fun. This is definitely some fun building up to WrestleMania. But let's go. The start of Smackers, Roman and the boys just rolling up to the ring. Everybody going wild for it, and then remembering, oh wait, Sammy's not here. We need to boo you. So that's what happened. Like everybody popped big for Roman and the boys. Then all you hear is the kind of like, oh, deflation happened. Like that sad balloon noise. Obviously, Jay is still missing, and it's just them walking to the ring with Solo, Jimmy, the Wise Man, Roman. Standard fare. Takes him a couple minutes, as we all know, and Roman only has a couple of words. He says, Washington, D.C., acknowledge me. And the chorus of boos just ring out right before adrenaline begins to appear in everyone's souls. And now we can have the show finally start because Cody Rhodes is coming to the ring, okay? You know, something, something Cody Rhodes is just happening right now. It's just so good. I love the song, but I can't stop, memeing on it. By the time Cody actually starts talking, though, we're 8 minutes into this show. 8 whole freaking minutes, just two massive entrances. Cody says all he wants to do is he wants to have a one-on-one with the big man. Does he really feel like he needs his compatriots talking to Roman? So Roman just says everybody to leave. Just all leave us, Solo and Jimmy, they also leave. And then Roman's like, you're not going to like this. And he just drops the belts right in front of him. Like, fair enough. I'm a little bit indifferent to this. I don't like it when people disrespect the belt, but whatever. And this is what made me smile. Roman goes, so what do you want to talk about? Like, yes, he watches the product. He gets what Cody's about. He knows what he says. And then you see Cody crack out smile. It's so good. I love to see it. And Cody says it's his thing to climb insurmountable mountains. Roman is this insurmountable challenge for an awful lot of people, and he references the fact that he's been Randy's protege. He's references trying to get out of the shadow of Stardust, and even going so far as to say that the goalposts have moved. References the All In show, saying that there's no way 10,000 people would pay to see me and my buddy's little indie show. Like, okay, who did he have to clear that reference with? Because whoever it was, primo, good job. For everybody else, Roman Reigns might be impossible. Just not for me, says Cody. Oh, Cody chants just ringing out, and Roman is smiling. It's a bit creepy to see Roman smiling at this. It's like, okay, why are you smiling? That's actually some good stuff from Cody. What are you doing? Roman begins to ask if he's won the titles that sit in front of him. It's like, oh wait, no, you haven't. It's like, Have you competed for those? Oh wait, no, you haven't. Have you even been at the main event in Mania? Oh no, you haven't. And Cody's just sitting there going, everybody knew I was going to be there though last year. But anyway, but of course Roman has done it all. He is the main eventer. He is the big guy on campus. He is hecka good. And Roman begins to mention Dusty. Now, he says he isn't going to degrade him or anything like this here, but you can see the little twitch whenever he starts to talk about Dusty that Cody gets. You know, Cody gets this little twitch that angers him. But Roman does a passable Dusty impression. Like I'm not going to try and do an impression of Roman's impression because my impression is terrible. But he did go on to say that Dusty had said that all that had happened to Roman was going to happen long ago. They talked a lot, but he never said anything about Cody, as if referencing that his son never existed, that he was the son that he never had, and that Cody was the son that he never wanted, essentially. And then he amended that, at least he didn't say it to me. He maybe said it to Seth, to Kevin Owens, to Becky Lynch. He kind of said these names with a little bit of disdain. Like, these people are beneath me, so he wouldn't trouble me with talking about you because you're no competition. And then goes on to say, just so you know that if there's anything he didn't teach you, I will. Oh. No. No, 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 no. You can't just do that to the man. Like, what are you playing at, Roman? You despicable fiend. Cody comes back, obviously has to have the last word. Impassioned promo by Cody. Like I said, you need to watch these promos. And says that he has to exist. He has to prove that he exists. And that he has to do this by beating Roman at Mania. And may the better man win. And holds out his hand. We are now 20 minutes into SmackDown. And the show can finally start.
That was such an intense promo. I obviously watched the show first, but once I saw that, I was like, "Oh, Joker, my brother. This has Joker written all over it, my guy." Fabulous points. Just fabulous points. Roman just getting in there, a little bit of a getting under his skin, but it wasn't to tear him down in a sense of like, this is what Dusty told me these things, and obviously kind of put the dagger a little bit into Cody, but he's just like, listen, like he may not have he spent a lot of time with me and prepared me, but you know what? Like I'll help you get to the promised land, kid. I'll help you out because your dad wasn't able to. So really, really good back and forth. We didn't need a big old fight. We didn't need a grandiose. I think it was fantastic that we just had these guys go back and forth and take subtle shots. But yeah, it was just I think it was organized and set together well, and the things that each guy brought up was just really spot on, and it worked well within the segment.
Super happy with what we got out of that. We got the angry Cody. We got him just lambasting Roman for a bit, and then Roman coming back. And the only thing I could think when Roman was talking was, "Please reference suffering succotash for no reason." Like just for no reason, Roman. Please do it. He didn't, but like what we got was still super good. I loved his Dusty impression. I thought that was hilarious. People always do a Dusty impression, and to see Roman do it,
I gotta say, like, Roman's Dusty was pretty decent. Give it to him. Yeah.
I mean, so far personally, the best Dusty impression is always PT's Dusty impression whenever he does a Dusty impression. But like to hear Roman, like I feel like that's a close second for me now. So it's yeah, 100%. It was super fun.
Yeah, really good to see just the really arrogant, cocky heel with a history of the guy's dad just put him in his place, but the babyface son just kind of fire back, and you know what? He does that like, I you know what? Kind of control myself for a second. Sticks out the hand, let the best man win. You know, basically, I'm gonna save it for the match type of thing. So yeah, thought it was really good, and yeah, man, I appreciated they gave him time. Like you said, roughly 20 minutes, and now we can start the show. So there you go.
Yeah, yeah. I was just surprised by the amount of time given to these guys. Uh 8 minutes to get into their intro, through the intros, and then by the time 20 minutes rolled around, we're good to go.
Yeah, really fun. And like we said, we're about 4 weeks out from the pay per view. So hopefully we can get engaging segments. Let's not overexpose these guys. We're already bought into the match. Let's sprinkle in some worthwhile segments with these fellas, these lads, and let's not just do throwaway segments that is just type of thing. So that's where I'm at with it.
100% agree.
Yeah, I'm in agreement for sure. That was our quick hit from this week. Let us know down in the comment section below on YouTube or hit us up on Twitter, Instagram if you had a quick hit and you enjoyed something from this past week in the world of professional wrestling. All right, so that about wraps it up for us. Joker, how was that for you, brother? We went over a lot of things. We agreed. We had some disagreements, but I felt like we have a better idea of where we each other at with AEW Revolution.
Yeah, gonna have to spend some time on a Sunday night on a Monday morning rather watching this. I kind of don't like pay-per-views on a Sunday anymore. So Revolution, WrestleMania night 2, you know, kind of gonna wanna dodge those bullets. But
We've been getting spoiled in the last year or so. I forget when exactly this kind of started, but we've been getting some Saturday pay-per-views. I know that in the past year or so, AEW goes has been going back and forth between a Saturday and a Sunday, depending on WWE has been doing a bit more of the Saturday ones. So I'm not opposed to it. It's actually kind of nice, depending on for like myself. You can watch it on Saturday night. You have kind of Sunday for you over in the UK, you know, you don't have to stay up on a Sunday night slash Monday morning to watch a Sunday pay per view. You can have a little bit of time on a Sunday to recover for that Saturday night. So it is what it is, but you have to remember that it's on a Sunday rather than Saturday.
yeah, 100%. Like you said, been spoiled with these Saturdays. Much prefer the Saturday because I can just wake up on a Sunday, and watch whatever, lying in bed, and just watch it whenever I wake up, and not have to stay up super late and watch it. So yeah, Sunday. Maybe that compounds the fact that I don't like this, you know, rematch illusion pay-per-view. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's like we mentioned, a number of these matches are rematches, so everyone's looking, of course, forward to the MJF Bryan Danielson Iron Man match. So be that as it may, whether some of the builds were maybe a little lackluster, maybe felt a little rushed, maybe felt a little ham-fisted, a lot of these matches, when they happen, they're going to be fun to watch. So hopefully that'll circumvent a little bit of some folks' trepidation when it comes to the build of how we got there. But yeah, I think I'll have fun. I'll sort of look at it in a vacuum. I'll just watch the matches and try to enjoy them for just kind of what they are, regardless. So, all right. So with that, for TF Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, Pretty Tony, we thank you for your time, letting us be a part of your day. And remember, be good to yourself, be good to each other, and we will catch you next time. Peace.